All right, my resource secondary math 1 class. We are going to be starting a new unit today, and it's kind of building on not our previous unit, but the unit before that one. If you guys can remember, 2 units ago, we were talking about slope in slope-intercept form, okay? Where we were given equations. Remember, it looked like y equals something, okay? And we used that equation to graph a line on our coordinate plane. So today we're going to be talking about finding the slope when given either a line on a coordinate plane or when given 2 coordinate points. Okay, so let's get right into it. So let's go ahead and define slope really quick. Okay, so in the top right hand corner of our page, let's go ahead and define these two, or at least write down what they mean. Okay, so on the top right hand side, I want you to write slope. Okay, and slope is always what we call rise over run. Okay, we've talked about that a little bit. Okay, rise over run, meaning we're always going to go up or down before we go left or right. Okay, in fact, let's write that down too. Up or down before we go left or right. Okay, beautiful. So now I want us to write down the slope formula, because part of what we're going to do today is count using rise or run, and the other part we are going to actually solve using our slope formula. Okay, so our slope formula is y2 minus y1. This formula is super important, so make sure you're writing this down. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, super important formula that we're going to come back to. Okay, well, let's look at number 1. So it's giving us a line on a coordinate plane. So what we're actually going to do is count rise over run. So let's go ahead to help us out. Let's do our rise and our run. Okay, so we're going to start from our bottom point, or our lowest point. That's right here. Okay, we don't necessarily need to know what this point is. We're just going to start there. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rise. Okay, so my rise is 1, 2, 3. So I had to jump 3 places to get to my next point. So my rise is 3. Okay, well, now I'm at my next point. So did I have to run anywhere? Meaning, did I have to go left or right anywhere? No, we're already there. Okay, so we actually didn't have to go left or right. So our rise over run is 3 over 0. Okay, well, let's now reduce that. Okay, because if our slopes can be reduced, we must reduce them. So what is 3 divided by 0? Okay, let me phrase it like this. Let's say I had 3 donuts. Okay, how do I divide 3 donuts? And that's actually not a good example, because technically we can make donuts disappear when we eat them. So let's think of something else. I have 3 books. Sure, books. I have 3 books. How do I divide into 0 books? Okay, that would literally take magic to divide something into 0. So this is how we write it in math. This is actually called undefined. Okay, whenever you have that 0 on bottom. Okay, so undefined, write that. And what that means is 0, the number 0 is on bottom. Okay, so that's super important. Okay, so we know that our slope for number 1 is actually undefined, okay, because that 0 is on bottom. Okay, well, let's look at number 2. Okay, so we're thinking rise over run. Rise over run. Got to go up and down before we go left or right. Okay, so let's start from our lower point. Okay, so our lower point is this guy right here. So I'm going to first rise. Okay, so from the same line that my second point is on, I only had to rise 1 space. Okay, so I'm gonna put a 1 right there. Now, from that space where I'm at right here, so I rose 1, now I'm sitting right here. How many spaces do I need to run? 1, 2. Okay, so now we know that our slope is 1/2. Okay, and I want us to make this note on our paper. In fact, we've already learned this in our class. When our line is going, looking at it from left to right, if our line is going up, so up to the right, slope is positive. Okay, so just like this guy, our slope is positive. It's a positive 1/2. Okay, let's look at number 3. Okay, so we have our rise over run. Okay, so let's figure out what our rise is. So let's start. Ooh, this is kind of a tricky one. There's no ones that are lower than each other. Okay, so do I have to rise at all to get on the same line? No. Okay, I did not have to rise any. So our rise is actually 0. They're already on that same line. Okay, well, how many, just starting from this point, do I have to run? 1, 2. Okay, so our slope is 0 divided by 2. Okay, well now let's think of it like this. I have 0 books and 2 people. Okay, 0 divided by 2. How many books do those 2 people get if I have 0 books? It's 0. Okay, we've talked about this a little, but think of like snowboarding, right? I think of slopes, hitting the slope. Okay, well, if you're snowboarding and the ground, I guess, the ground is really flat, okay, how many miles per hour are you gonna go? How fast are you gonna go? Probably not fast at all. Think 0 miles per hour. Okay, so if it's flat, you're gonna go 0 miles per hour. Our slope is 0. Okay, let's look at number 4. So start from our lowest point. Okay, first, let me write our rise over run. Okay, write this with me. This will really help you guys. Rise over run equals, okay, well, what is my rise? Let's start at our lowest point. Okay, lowest point's right here. Okay, to get on that same line right there with our second point, I have to rise 1, 2. So my rise is 2. Okay, well, from where I stopped, how many do I have to run? 1, 2. Okay, can we reduce 2 over 2? Or what is 2 divided by 2? That's just going to give me 1. But wait, is this a positive 1? Okay, let's make this note on our paper. Down to the right. Okay, see how our line is going down to the right? Slope is negative. So this isn't a positive 1, it's a negative 1. Perfect. Okay, so numbers 1 through 4, we were finding the slope simply by counting from one point to the other. Okay, well, let's look at numbers 5 through 10. Okay, so this is where we have to use our slope formula. Okay, we are given 2 points. And first thing I want us to do, so let me zoom out so you can see this. I want us to label these coordinate points. Okay, so our X point is always the point that comes first. Okay, so let's zoom in just for a minute on 5. Your X point is always the one that comes first. So X, comma, Y, X, comma, Y. Okay? Well, since this is your first coordinate, the one that comes first, label that X1 and Y1. Okay, since this is your second coordinate, label that X2 and Y2. Now I want you to do the same thing on all 6 of these problems. Okay, so on 6, this is going to be X1, Y1, X2, and Y2. Just meaning my first coordinate point, my second coordinate point. Same thing, x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, do that same thing for all of these problems. x1, y1, x2, y2. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so 5 through 10 on your notes should look like mine. Okay, so all of them are labeled. That's gonna make it super easy to know what numbers we're plugging in to our slope formula. Okay, notice we still have that y2, y1, x2, x1. Okay, well, we labeled all of these down here. Now we just need to plug it in. Okay, to help us out, let's go ahead and repeat that formula. Just rewrite it right here. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so here's what I want you guys to do now. Instead of writing y2 minus y1, I want you to put spaces in your formula. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it. Instead of y2, I'm just going to put a space. Okay, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, just like that. Okay, we just took away the letters and we're going to replace it with numbers. Okay, so now I'll do this light green for my y's because my y's are on top. So find your y2. What number is above y2? It's going to be 3. So we're going to put a 3 right there. Okay, what about y1? What number is above y1? It's going to be 5. Okay, now I'll do pink for x's. So what is x2? What number is above x2? Negative 5. Okay, what number is above x1? Positive 8. And now we solve. Okay, so same thing, it's gonna have that line in the middle. So let's solve for the top one. What is 3 minus 5? I have 3, I take away 5, how many do I get? Negative 2. Okay, let's look at the bottom. Negative 5 minus 8 more. Okay, I'm getting more negative here. Negative 5 minus 8. Okay, so that's actually going to give me negative 13. Okay, well, let's go ahead and reduce it. What is a negative divided by a negative? It's going to give me a positive. So those guys just kind of go away, right? They kind of just cancel. So we're left with 2 over 13. Okay, 13 is not an even number, meaning 2 doesn't go into it. So our final slope is 2 over 13. Okay, let's do it again for number 6. Okay, so we're going to rewrite our formula just using the spaces again. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so now let's go ahead and fill in those spaces, right? Okay, so let's start with our y's. y1 or y2 is on top, right? So what number is above y2? Got 17. What number is above y1? Negative 5. Okay, our y's are filled in. Let's fill in our x's. What number is above x2? Negative 9. And what number is above x1? Negative 14. Okay, well, look at this right here, you guys. Before we solve, okay, we need to figure out what does this double negative actually turn into. That actually turns into a positive or plus sign. Okay, so now instead of 17 minus a negative 5, we actually have 17 plus 5. So what goes on top? 17 plus 5. It's going to give me 22. Okay, let's do the bottom one. What is negative 9 minus a negative. Uh-oh, what does that turn into? Minus a negative, that turns into a plus. So now I have negative 9 plus 14. Okay, we were in the negatives, but we're going towards the positives. We're actually going to end up at positive 5. Okay, and since we cannot reduce it, it just stays 22 over 5. And that is our slope. Okay, let's do it again. Let's look at number 7. Okay, so write your formula with the blanks, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, well now let's fill in these blanks. So y2 is my first space, so what number is above y2? Negative 10. y1 is my next space, what number is above y1? Negative 20. Okay, we filled in our y's, let's fill in our x's. What number is above x2? 9. And what number is above x1? 11. Okay, now that we just filled in those spaces, now let's solve. But again, what does a double negative turn into? Positive. Okay, so what is negative 10 plus 20? I'm in the negatives at 10. I'm going to add 20 towards the positives. What's that going to give me? It's going to give me positive 10. Or think 20 subtract 10. Okay, now my bottom. What is 9 take away 11? So I'm taking away more than I had. So we're going to be in the negatives. Where are we going to be in the negatives? Negative 2. Okay, so this one, we have a positive on top, a negative on bottom. That means it is going to be negative. Okay, but what is 10 divided by 2? Or 10 divided by negative 2 is going to give us negative what? Negative 5. So since that reduced, we actually don't need to put that 1 on bottom. Okay? I have a few more examples, so I'll come find you.
Okay, come find me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do number 8. So write your formula with the blanks. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, we just rewrote our formula, but instead of the actual pieces, we just put our blanks. So now let's fill them in. y2 is my first blank. That's going to be 18. y1 is my second blank. That's going to be 19. x2 is my next blank. That's going to be 3. And x1 is 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve. So on top we have 18 take away 19. So we're taking away more than we have. We're going to be in the negatives. What is 18 minus 19? It's going to be negative 1. Okay, let's look at the bottom. What is 3 minus 1? That's going to be 2. Okay, we can't reduce this down anymore, so our final answer is just negative 1/2. Beautiful. Let's look at number 9. Okay, same thing. Write your formula just with the spaces. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we're going to solve. Okay, my y2 is my first space right here. That's going to be negative 5. y1, my next space, positive 14. Okay, on bottom are my x's. x2 comes first, so negative 13. And x1, 2. Okay, now let's solve. Negative 5 minus 14. So we're already in the negatives. We're getting more negative. Okay, where are we going to end up at in the negatives? Negative 19. Okay, same thing on bottom. We're already in the negatives. At negative 13, we're going to subtract 2 more. Where am I going to end up at? Negative 15. Okay, well, the only thing that can reduce here is we know that a negative divided by a negative, they almost cancel out. They turn into a positive. Okay, well, 19 and 15 don't have any common factors. Nothing goes into 15 that also goes into 19. So it just stays 19 over 15. And there's our answer. Okay, one more example. We got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and we're going to solve. Okay, our y2 comes first, that's 20. y1 is negative 20. Okay, x2 is 12, x1, 7. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve. 20 minus a negative 20, which turns into a positive. So now we have 20 plus 20. What's 20 plus 20? It's going to give me 40 on top. Okay, and on bottom I have 12 minus 7. 12 minus 7 is going to give me 5. Okay, this one we can reduce because we can say what is 40 divided by 5. What is 40 divided by 5? That's going to give me 8. Okay. And that was finding slope with the slope formula. So today we found our slope just by counting points and using our slope formula.